Tov, guten Woch. Tonight's story number 8 of the Shivchei HaBaal Shem Tov, is called Shidduch v'nisuah shel Baal Shem Tov, the Shidduch and the wedding of the Baal Shem Tov. I assume everyone listening to Baal Shem Tov stories knows the Shidduch is the marriage arrangement. The arrangement prior to the wedding of who will marry who, should they meet, when do they agree to making the wedding. And so, the story says, אחרי זה לקח לו דרך החרס וילך משם לקהילה הסמוכה לקהילת קודש ברot. After the story that I told last week, he was taken. What was taken? The Baal Shem Tov was taken by Shgacha Pratis, by divine providence, through a different path. And he went to a kehila, to a community near to the community of Brot. Brot meaning Brody. And there, in this place, he became a very successful melamed, a very successful children's teacher. He was beloved by everyone, and he was seen as a marvelous sage, scholar. They loved how much he knew. He was chosen as the person whose the matters of the community would depend on his mouth, meaning on whatever he said. Whenever there was a dispute between people and they would come to him, he would give them his psak, his judgment on what they're bringing him, and both the person who basically was given the responsibility, say, to make the payment or to whatever, when the psak was not in his favor, as well as the one in whose favor it was, both accepted with an open heart, with all their attention. They accepted what the Baal Shem Tov said. The wisdom, when the Baal Shem Tov spoke to their heart. And so they accepted what he said. And that's how the fame came to Moreinu Harav Gershon Kutover, Gershon of Kitov, who was the head of the Besdin of the community of Brod, or Brody, and his father, Moreinu Harav Avraham. There was a Din Torah, a case brought to a Jewish court, that has to be arranged in front of a Besdin with some members of the community where the Baal Shem Tov, or some member of the community where the Baal Shem Tov lived. Moreinu Harav Avram went there and spoke to the person who had the case in that community, that had to bring the case to the Din Torah, and told him that he needs to come to the community of Brot, to the Besdin, and to take the matters according to Torah law. So the man said, okay, he agrees, but here there is a great Torah sage, a great Torah scholar in my community. He is a good, a true Dayan, a good, a righteous judge. And whenever something comes out of his mouth, this psak, this judgment, this ruling, it's the proper one. And both the people who are in front of him, the people who are bringing the disputation, will accept it. He knows how to explain it. He's the person, meaning he wants this man, they don't know as the Baal Shem Tov, but this Rav Yisrael, they want him to come as well. As soon as Moreinu Harav Avram of Kitov, came to the Baal Shem Tov, he had a message from Ruach HaKodesh, from that spiritual sense that has the element of prophecy, that you can see things through this. And through this Ruach HaKodesh, he was able to see that his daughter was destined to be the future wife of the Baal Shem Tov. Back then, when a guest would come to a Torah scholar, it was the minhag, the custom, that the guest would give a pshat, an explanation on a passage of the Torah or the Talmud. And so the Baal Shem Tov, came in front of Rav Avraham, and he gave several pshatim, several explanations, such as in the Torah and the Talmud. By the time they were in the Beis Din, and the people who had the dispute, the litigants came, they presented their claims, and they had many complaints, and the dispute was very big. The Baal Shem Tov took nearly 1 hour, and then he gave his righteous psak, and the way in which he gave it, in way in which he spoke, marveled Rav Avraham, and he fell in love with the method of the Baal Shem Tov to give a psak in halacha, to give a ruling in Jewish law. In the meantime, Rav Avraham also realized that Baal Shem Tov is not married. Remember that he had a wife for a short period of time when he was very young, and then she passed away. And so he should get married to a woman. And Moreinu Rav Avraham had a daughter who was a grusha, a divorced woman. So he met privately with the Baal Shem Tov, and he said, I heard that Ma'alato, your highness, your excellence, he comes in a very respectful way to the Baal Shem Tov. I heard that you need a woman to get married. Would you perhaps consider my daughter to marry? The Baal Shem Tov said, it's a good thing, it's a good proposal, but no one in this community should know about this, because the people of the community, the important people, I guess they already had someone in mind or something. I don't want anybody to confront me, to be disappointed, because they helped me here. This is a community where people were on my side. And if you want, we can do a Shtarat 9, the document in which we basically state the engagement, the commitment to the wedding. And it will be for a mazel tov, for a good mazel, but it will be done privately, confidentially, secretly. And I do not want the Shidduch to be with my Torah knowledge, with my titles. I want the Shidduch to be with my humble person. So I don't want you to put any shevach, any praises in the language in which you will write the Shtarat 9. Do not mention any special thing about me, my virtues. Just write Mar Yisrael ben Moreinu Eliezer, Mr. Israel, the son of our teacher Eliezer. That's it. That's the only mention there is of me. Nothing else about my family, my background, nothing. Now, the soul of Rabbi Avraham had become mekushar, had become connected to the soul of the Baal Shem Tov when he saw the Baal Shem Tov giving his psak din. Nafsha kshura b'nafsho. His soul was connected to his soul. To such a point, to such a level, that now he was ready to accept everything the Baal Shem Tov said automatically. He just accepted it. So with a good mazel, they wrote the document of the Tanaim as the normal Tanaim, as the normal document, without any special titles, and they didn't mention the place where this was written. Nothing was written about the Baal Shem Tov other than his name. When Moreinu Rav Avraham was on his way back home, it happens that he got sick with a terminal illness, and shortly thereafter he left this world. This was known to the entire community of Brod, and his son, the great Rav Gershon Kutover, great Gershon of Kitov, came to the burial and gave the hesped, the eulogy for his father, as is the proper thing to do. And then he received all of his father's belongings and all of his father's possessions and writings and books. And so they found among the writings of the father this document of engagement, and he was dumbfounded. His sister was engaged, according to this document, to somebody called Israel, and he didn't understand what this is. his father was such a great Mefursam, was a well-known sage. How did he make a Shidduch, a marital arrangement with, for his sister, Rav Gershon's sister, for the daughter of Rav Avram, with somebody of such an unknown background, somebody of no titles, somebody like in a lower level. So he went to tell his sister, and she says, if this was the right thing to the eyes of her father, there is nothing to think about it. Just take it. Now the Baal Shem Tov waited for a while he was in his teaching contract, I guess, until his melamdus, the time that they had set for learning, for teaching rather, his job expired. And then he went to the balabatim of the community, the heads of the households of the community, and told them, I'm going back to my place of origin. They begged him to stay, and they tried to convince him, and they offered to pay him a greater salary, they'll give him more donations, and he didn't accept. He had no intention to stay. Then the Baal Shem Tov looked and changed his clothing, and he dressed like one of the Reikim, the empty ones, meaning the poor, ignorant people who lack of qualities. He looked like a peasant. He got a big belt to close his clothing, and that's just about it. He changed the way he behaved and the way he spoke to look like an ignorant townsperson. And he went to the community, to the Kehila Kedosha of Brot, the holy community of Brot, and went to the house of the Rav that we mentioned above, Moreinu Rav Gershon, who had at the moment two batei din in front of him, and he was talking to the judges of the cases that they had to deal with. And then they see this man by the door. Moreinu Rav Gershon, he thought must be a poor person who's coming for tzedakah, so he took a coin from the table and was going to just give it to him and let him go. The Baal Shem Tov didn't take the coin, and he said, I have a private matter to discuss with you. They went into another room, and there the Baal Shem Tov showed him his copy of the Shtar HaTanaim, of the engagement contract. And he said, Haba es ishti, bring me my wife, my future wife. Rav Gershon sees him, his clothing, the way he speaks, and he's scared. He's beyond, in English you say flabbergasted. He's like, I cannot get this. How his father of blessed memory could have done such a thing? So he does indeed call his sister, tells her what's going on, and she said, if our father did this, what's there to doubt? This comes from Hashem, obviously. And then there is a quote from the Gemara in her words, Ve'ula ifok miniya zera me'aliyah. It's a Gemara in Ksubos 53a or Baba Basra 133b, and it means that perhaps from here will come a greater seed. Seed meaning the children that you don't know. There's a couple of legal cases, but you don't know, even when somebody doesn't seem to be in a level, the children will be geon, and the children will be great. And so since she's accepting, they proceed. They program the wedding. They establish the date when it was going to be. Prior to the chuppah, the Baal Shem Tov asked to see his wife. There is a sentence in Gemara Kiddushin that says that a man cannot get married without seeing the face of his wife. Today, what we'll do is the badek and the chassan, even though he has not seen the kala, the bride, for a week, he comes to cover her face, they put the veil in her face. So the Baal Shem Tov has to see her, and when he sees her in private, he reveals her the full truth about who he is, the tzaddik nistar, and tells her everything. And then she swore to keep it secret and to not reveal it, even if they go through a time of great anguish, of hardship, of financial hardship, and maybe saying that her husband is a tzaddik will help her. She would keep quiet. And so is the story. It will continue next week. Explanations will go in my Patreon page, where I hope to write an article and make the notes on this story for those who wish to know and understand the details. Talking about the Patreon, I will put a link in the description of this video. I would like to thank those who have been helping. I am in the process of translating this book to Spanish. Yehoshua Valencia, Isabel Patino, Rosario Canaval, and Roger Salazar. And to everyone, thank you. You can also give a donation on Patreon. Look for free at all my notes. Thanks for watching. Please share, give a like, subscribe, tell people about this channel, and tell the Baal Shem Tov stories. Motzei Shabbos. Shavua Tov. A gut Tavoch.